Special edition of the Interview 20 on Wednesday, April 2nd features the United Kingdom Foreign Secretary William Hague.
First, let me start by asking about current situation in Ukraine. I know that you this week have a meeting in Hague, foreign ministers meeting. You have information from today about this meeting in the United Nations. Your comment?
Well, there has been an important vote today in the United Nations General Assembly about the situation in Ukraine, particularly in Crimea, calling for the territorial integrity of Ukraine to be respected. And that vote has been carried by 100 countries voting for it and only 11 voting against.
Wide-ranging sanctions have been imposed by European Union and the United States. What more can European Union, United Kingdom and United States do?
We can do a lot more if necessary, and this would be more far-reaching sanctions in the area of trade, of finance, of the economy more generally than the sanctions that we've had so far. These sanctions are now in preparation. They are being prepared by the European Commission with the participation of EU member states, and those sanctions are ready for if there is any further escalation by Russia of this crisis in Ukraine.
Mr. Hague, who can remove Russian soldiers from Crimea?
Well, clearly Russia doesn't have the intention of removing soldiers from Crimea, and so they are clearly not proposing to do that. What we're looking at is a wider de-escalation of this crisis, and as I say, a different state of relations with Russia, if there is no solution to it.
When diplomacy does not bring result, is it time for something else, for something new?
I think we should always be open to efforts that are new, but we are trying every effort here. The UN Secretary General, of course, has been to Moscow and to Kiev. We've tried every diplomatic opportunity to find a way forward. In the absence of agreement with Russia about the future of Ukraine, then we must do what we can to support Ukraine, to try to make sure it can be a successful country, not a country that is kept permanently weak by Russia.
This is very interesting. Swedish Foreign Minister Carl Bildt said that Crimea was just the Russian president's opening game. What do you think? Which game?
Well, clearly
War game, football game?
It's a complex. I don't know for Carl Bildt to define what sort of game it is. It's very important that it is not followed up by further moves by Russia against Ukraine. And that is why we are preparing other sanctions in the European Union, so is the United States. That is why the vote has taken place in the General Assembly that I was just talking about. The world is making clear what it thinks, and even countries like China are abstaining at the United Nations, a country that usually nearly always votes with Russia on matters that are important for Russia, is abstaining. Moscow should be taking real notice of that.
We have our own local comment here by the leader of the small entity of Republic of Srpska. I'm sure that you know who is he. According to Mr. Dodik, the Crimea referendum is wholly legal, and so are Russian actions. Please, your comment.
Well, you can, as you can tell from everything else I've been saying, these are not legal actions, first of all. This is against the Charter of the United Nations. It is against all principles of international law, specifically against Russia's agreements with Ukraine, including the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, including the Black Sea Fleet basing memorandum. Russia has broken all of these things.
I will read you something. Milorad Dodik said, quote, "We are looking at the same situation in the world. So what's happening in Italy? We see that Scotland will come quickly to referendum. Something is happening in Catalonia. These are capital experience for Republic of Srpska. We will follow the example of the best international experience when the times comes." So Foreign Secretary Hague, Milorad Dodik, regularly mentions the secession of Republika Srpska from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and now he said that smaller entity of Republika Srpska is similar to Scotland, so it is copycat case.
Well,
I must ask you
of
this.
course, and Scotland, of course, is a great contrast with what has happened in Crimea. There we are having a referendum. in September, on the 18th of September this year. That is a referendum held legally with the agreement of all parts of the United Kingdom. In fact, the law to allow that referendum to be held was passed in London. It is the British government that has said that it is legal and has provided for a referendum in Scotland. So that is very, very different, of course. They're the absolute opposite of what has happened in Crimea. And I think what is important here in Bosnia-Herzegovina is to recognize the importance of being able to function as a state. I am a very strong supporter of this country. I've always taken a great interest in this country, and I believe in this country's ability to join its neighbors and to have a European future. This is what the people of Bosnia-Herzegovina need, this opportunity in the future. And so I am a strong supporter of future membership of the European Union and of NATO for Bosnia. But this will only happen if Bosnia can function as a country. And to me, this means it is important that the map is finished and that people are able to work together. And efforts to try to dissolve Bosnia-Herzegovina will be very strongly resisted by the United Kingdom and by much of the rest of the international community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Interview 20, a must-watch.